Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the Morning Dump. I am your host, Jose Galison. No kitty of the day today, but you know what that means. We got a guest with us. We have Pete Quinones. Now, if you just like seeing my hot takes Monday through Friday, or if you just like seeing the kitty of the day, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications so you know when I'm going live. We'll see you in the show.
Beautiful thing right now.
Rise and shine. It's a beautiful day.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
This is the bridge to the white light.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad.
It's crazy evil.
Good morning, everyone. We got Pete Quinones with us today. We have plenty to go through with you all. We'll start off, as always, with our Icebreaker content, the more fun, funny Gen Pop. Then we'll go over to foreign policy, and then we'll get into our main segments of the day. We've got Ice is a Protestor, Troon Terror, and Thiel Takeover. Who knows? That last one might get cut. We'll see how long we dilly-dally with the other two, but I'm happy to have Pete with us today. Happy New Year's, bud. How's it doing? Long time no see. You're looking good. You can just see it in your face. You look healthy, so that's always good to see. So glad to talk to you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, good to talk to you. I probably need a shave, and like I said the other day, no homo, but the beard's coming in great. Yeah,
yeah, just not shaving. That's the trick.
yeah, right. Just don't mess. Yeah. Try to shave the neck so that you don't go full neck beard. But
yeah, never. If anything, I'm starting to come back a little bit because I've always just been wanting to go right around the chin strap, but I'm coming back a little bit. I think that's helping it thick out a little bit, but. I know, also just getting older, so I don't know. Just it's time. What, 30s? I think it starts to fill in. I think by 40, if you ain't got it, you're just screwed. So probably that'd be my guess.
If you haven't gotten any gray yet, then it's just gonna all hit you at once. You're gonna wake up one day and you're gonna be like, "Holy fuck, what happened?"
Oh, I've had grays for probably a couple years now. They're increasing intensity, but I'm just saying like the filled out portion because I was a little worried for a long time this wasn't going to connect, and it's still not that great. But you know, I'm about at my wit's end of like we're at my biological end where I don't think I'm going to get much fuller. I think I would assume about 40 is how much more you can really get, but.
Pretty much,
yeah. But I guess that's enough for beard talk. Let's just go ahead and get some goofy stuff to start off with. A little bit of icebreaker. Not that it's really necessary. We've done plenty of shows in the past. Not really any need to break the ice, but just for fun, just to keep with the format of the show. I figured we'd start off with, have you heard of this deep lore, Pete? I don't know. I guess let's be real. All of them are a little bit fruity, but we covered yesterday on the show Marco Rubio and some of his weird, ironically, narco-terrorism ties. Apparently his brother-in-law growing up was the number 2 of like essentially what was legitimately a CIA asset, like in some cartel. He also, there's other weird stuff. He would be, I think he started as an intern for someone who also was some sort of CIA asset. And then here we have him at a foam party with a bunch of dudes. And apparently the rumor is, I haven't looked into this whatsoever, that apparently 11 of these men just were mysteriously murdered back in 2006. But supposedly the lore behind this, I don't know, just kind of funny. I mean, but what are your thoughts maybe generally, just kind of the fruitcakes that rule above us, I guess, or anything along these lines? So,
yeah, I just released an episode with Father Emmanuel Lemelson. And he was prosecuted by the SEC. And he said he was sitting in the courtroom and he looked over he leaned over to his lawyer and he pointed over to like the prosecuting counsel. They're all of them. He goes, they're all gay. Is if you haven't noticed, every single person on that side of the room is gay. So, I mean, I just assume I question it's like rappers. Once you start looking into rappers for the last 3 decades, you're like, oh, okay, there we go. I assume the same thing with politicians. So, yeah, I mean, Marco is an interesting character. If you ever want to start deep diving into Marco, look up a gentleman named Norman Brayman.
Norman Brayman. I'll go ahead and type that in now. Norman. Is he on Twitter?
I'll share it with you in the group chat. I'll share it with you in our private chat.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, send that to me later. I'd be interested in looking into him. All right, moving on
it's the billionaire. It's the billionaire who started him.
Oh, the billionaire who started him. Is he living with him, much like Cash Patel is with some millionaire in Vegas?
I don't think so, but just if you know Marco, you won't have to look up Mr. Brayman's early life.
Yeah, yeah, but it never ceases to fail. It seems to be damn near every time they're fruitcake. The Old Boys Club, it seems. Speaking of the Old Boys Club, the boys are back in town. So here we go. Well, this was shared on the 1st by Netanyahu and or by Netanyahu's office. This is about right around the time he was visiting in Mar-a-Lago. I know we've been blitzed by the news, so it's hard to keep up. But yes, he visited again during the New Year's. So I find that particularly interesting, ramping up for probably the next new conflict and kind of spitting in our faces a little bit. Not all of us like it, like the Marco Rubios in the world. So I don't know if you have any thoughts of that. Obviously, we're going to get into foreign policy, but I had to show just the ridiculous. I mean, also, I think there's something, too. I guess maybe there's commentary to be had. I know, especially you, Pete, you kind of get somewhat credited as like coming up through the meme, riding the meme wave. It could be said the same as of me in many ways. But there is this new push, I guess. I don't know if push is the right word I'm looking for here, but with the powers that be, the Trump administration, the cabinet, even Netanyahu's leaking into it a little bit, where this is like, I don't know if they're trying to appeal to the young people. It comes off as stupid boomer nonsense most of the time. Every now and then they have one that hits, and you're like, okay, respect. But probably like 90, more than 9 times out of 10, it's a complete dud and just weird boomer posting. But I don't know if you have any thoughts along that. Just the kind of I'm a little bit weirded and grossed out by it. It's kind of like nonstop cringe, I guess. I mean, not that that's really a substantive discussion really to be had, but I don't know. Maybe they need to step up their game. I don't know if that's on purpose. Are you getting weird cringe vibes from the posting of the current administration and really just kind of politicians generally these days? I don't know. Maybe they'll get with it here soon, but we're in a weird space right now.
Yeah, they're just trying to catch up to the meme wars of 2016. They're always about 10 years behind, but we're graduating into the next thing. I mean, AI videos are. I don't know if you saw Andrew Torba's tweet yesterday talking about how somebody had just used AI to make a short of The Legend of Zelda because no one's ever made a Legend of Zelda movie, and he's like, I mean, we're at the time now where in 2026. Somebody's going to spend $300 to make a documentary on the USS Liberty or the sacking of the temple in Jerusalem in 70 AD or the Holodomor, using AI. So it's like they're just basically 10 years behind. I mean, if I share a meme now, it's because I'm bored. Yeah. It's like, oh, this looks good. Okay, fun. But yeah, this is and it's desperation too. They realize they're losing the youth, but the youth are beyond memes now.
Are you sure they're losing the youth, Pete? Because I don't know if you've heard of this new guy, Nick Shirley, but here's him visiting El Salvador prison. Totally legit.
I watched this for the first time in San Salvador. I went down. The wife and I went to El Salvador last year, and we were sitting in the hotel room on a rainy day, and this came up in my suggested, and I actually watched this. So I've known about this guy for like over a year.
Oh shit! So I noticed he also interviewed some guy we covered on the show the other day. He interviewed some mayor in Jerusalem, and it was just kind of like kind of throwing up ridiculous Zionist talking points to the guy. So he seems pretty contrived. He kind of blew up out of nowhere. I do the whole silly Nick Shirley voice whenever I talk about him.
How does a kid get a tour of CCOT, and how does a kid get a tour of that? I mean, there's a reason, you know. It's like, I'm a fairly well connected guy, and I didn't get to meet with Bukele when I was down there.
You didn't get to visit their prisons? You just walk among the cartel, like whatever. Let's watch this video. I haven't watched it yet, but I guess just for the audience, they can see it. Let's watch this real quick.
Every single person you see right here are prisoners here inside El Salvador, but they're now being used to help rebuild and reshape the entire country. Each person you see right now here has a sewing machine, and they are making the clothes for schools, hospitals, and for they themselves. All the clothes that they're wearing right now have been made here inside this factory. There are over 2,000 people here inside of this factory right now. And all of these prisoners, every single day they work here inside this factory, 2 days is taken off of their sentence. So that means if they're supposed to serve 4 years, they can technically serve only 2 years if they work inside this factory every single day, helping reduce the time of these people's sentences and also helping build up the country as well. They have 3 shifts of 2,000 people, so 24/7, this factory is running each and every single day with over 6,000 prisoners working inside of this factory. You do not see any distractions, any cell phones, any music, any TVs. All of these prisoners are just working here inside El Salvador. 24/7, there's 2,000 people inside of this factory. These people are on a shift for 8 hours, and then the next shift comes in. 24/7, this place is operating.
All right, nothing really interesting there, but I mean, it's, as we said, it is interesting he even got this opportunity in the first place. What is he, like probably early 20s, and somehow he's over in El Salvador. I don't know. This is not normal things for people to. I don't know. I mean, not that I'm some big wig or you're big, but we haven't landed these. So I don't know. It feels like a Charlie Kirk vibe. Someone picked up out of irrelevance. I'm sure we'll probably find some billionaire here soon who's the one who funded him to whatever the hell he's become now. But it looks like I don't know what's going to become of him though. Like you said though, they are kind of faltering with the youth. They seem to try to push the Douglas Murray guy a while back. I mean, obviously there's a little bit of a parallel between the two, a little bit different, but
he's gay.
Like he was already established figure,
Nick's
Douglas Murray, huh?
Nick's gay.
Yeah. Well, I was just more getting at this like contrived kind of not created, but this the hero of the establishment, I guess. But Douglas Murray kind of fell. He was already an established character, whereas Nick, they've kind of risen to prominence real quickly. But it does seem like he's going to fall apart. He was one of the guys sharing some of the nonsense. At least he wasn't one of the ones sharing AI videos, but he was sharing shit that was like from the United States the other day in relation to the Venezuela stuff. So, I mean, I don't know, not really the greatest journalist as people are trying to make him out to be. Clearly a bit of an establishment hack. Although, much like with Douglas Murray, Trump came out immediately after he kind of had been his reputation been impeached, and he was sharing stuff about him on his truth. So same thing he did with Douglas Murray, like I was getting at, where when after Dave eviscerated him, then Trump went on True Social and plugged his book. So these people get hooked up, but at the same time, it's like, well, they're kind of burning their reputation with the real people. Although the algo seems to be turned on, so I have no idea, turned on hardcore. So we'll see how that works out. I guess, what are your thoughts on these new, the Brillin Hollyhans, the Nick Shirleys, the created heroes trying to make for themselves because their established ones have already been destroyed, and they're kind of playing catch up in this ridiculous fashion. Do you have any thoughts on all that?
Well, my immediate thought of Brylan Hollyhand is that he was a test tube baby created in a lab in Tel Aviv for the purpose of for the homosexuals there to rape over and over again. It just seemed that way. But, the weird thing about Nick is, that somebody's putting him up to this. I mean, you can't get in CCOT unless you have some connections. Also, this thing in Somalia, the daycare fraud and everything, they've known about this since 2014. So apparently somebody decided to put him up to this at this point. I would not be surprised if they were regime adjacent, because, how do you get into CCOT? How do you, if you want to target Minneapolis and Minnesota, how do you do that? So I think a lot of people believe that everybody in the regime is in lockstep, and I think a cursory glance, you know they aren't. So yeah, I still believe that there are people in the regime who are pushing agendas. And I mean, think about it. If you're on JD Vance's team, say, and you wanted to expose that, you get somebody, you get one of your buddies to pay him, what, 50 grand to just go into Minneapolis with some cameras and start doing this. You tell him where to go. I mean, how did he know where to go? Did he, I mean, it wouldn't be hard to figure out where the Leering Center is, but I don't know. This definitely seems like this was, to me, he's orchestrated from on high. That's what I think.
100%. All right, moving on to foreign policy. Figured we'd talk a little bit about the Venezuela stuff. The latest over antiwar.com says White House says it will dictate the decisions of the Venezuelan government. I know I talked a lot about Venezuela yesterday. It actually was a main segment yesterday because Venezuela's popping off. But I did find it particularly interesting, a little bit confusing. The True Social we got from Trump yesterday about all the barrels of oil coming over and yada yada. I think we're still got questions on how that exactly is working. It seems like it might just be a little bit of a business as usual, but they're kind of putting a little bit of American spin on it. It also seems weird that they're acting, the way that they're talking as if they have control of this nation or something. And yet here we still have, I believe this comes from Karen Leavitt, saying they'll be dictating the decisions of the Venezuelan government. I guess their reasoning is because they're controlling their oil, what can come in and what can come out. But we're hearing very different things from the acting president. So although, I mean, there's obviously can be misinfo on both sides. They could be lying. There could be, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if there's handshake deals behind the scenes. But we're getting a disparate message from both administrations and the current Venezuelan administration, our administration, and even then within our own administration, we're kind of constantly getting conflicting messaging from like cabinet members and Trump himself. So just a little bit, what are your thoughts on this idea of us dictating the decisions of the Venezuelan government as if we've somehow, it's almost as if they're behaving as if we have boots on the ground and we somehow have their like everything locked down. But I think it's perhaps could end up being far more of a boondoggle than they're acting.
Well, I think when I saw this happen, the first thing I thought was, we have governors and mayors in this country who are way more dangerous to American citizens than Maduro is. So, I asked, how does this benefit me? And I don't know if you saw this, but Jesse Waters asked JD Vance last night, how does this benefit the average American? And he answered it. I shared the link in the chat, in our private chat, if you to the Twitter thing, if you wanted to share it. I mean, he gives an answer. Whatever you think about that answer, at least it seems like a definitive answer as to what it is.
All right, let's actually watch that real quick. Once we find the right tab. We got too many tabs up. Where the hell is it? There it is. All right, let's go ahead and play this. This is that clip you're talking about.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Taking out a dictator in Venezuela. How does that help the average American?
Well, a few things, Jesse. First of all, what it means is we're going to be able to control the incredible natural resources of Venezuela, which is good for America in a few ways. Number one, it allows us to put leverage on our enemies. Number two, it makes sure that if Americans need high quality, low cost power, we're always going to have access to it. And then the third thing is it does demonstrate American military excellence, which makes people afraid to cross us in the future. Some of the best ways that you maintain the peace is to make it clear that you carry a very strong sword if you ever need to use it. So I think it's good for us in a lot of different ways. We also have to remember, Jesse, this is in our neighborhood. This is not Iraq. This is not 7,000 miles away. This is in our neighborhood. If we cannot follow the basic principle, which has been a cornerstone of American foreign policy for 200 years, that we control our neighborhood, a lot of bad people are going to take advantage of it. What the President of the United States said is, in our neighborhood, the United States calls the shots. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it is again under the President's leadership.
Okay, sounds kind of like exactly what I thought. It's just power politics. So this is the tired old trick where they go, oh, this is in America's interest. And you're like, what do you mean when you say America? Then it sounds to me like they mean like the establishment, the big power politics type stuff that like, oh, this will be leverage we have if another great war were to occur or whatever. Whereas I don't necessarily know if this will really see much benefits to the common person so far as bringing gas prices down or anything along those lines. If anything, it'll probably, I don't know, be break even or maybe even lose money, I'd guess. Ironically, I think I wouldn't be at least surprised if cocaine prices go down after all this, but that's a deeper conspiracy. But yeah, this sounds to be what he's describing in like kind of a judicious way, dressing it up a little bit in political speech. I don't know if you have any other takeaways from that. I mean, that's kind of sounds like what he's saying. So
sure. Taking him at face value. Okay. I've heard this before. Invading Iraq, oil prices were supposed to go down. Also, it's in our hemisphere, so it's in our neighborhood. Taking morality or politics out of it completely. Okay, so you get rid of the person who's in charge. You would hope that the person you install, that's installed there, would be, sympathetic to you, would be your friend. How has that worked out in the past? It normally doesn't work out very well. But also you say, okay, this is my area. This is our area of the world, and we have to police it. We have to have a strong hand. Well, then you can't say anything about Russia invading Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Russia did it because they need they need the ports. They basically, like the people in Ukraine, in eastern Ukraine, are 99.9% Russian, so they're basically their brothers and sisters. But there are minerals there that they want. There's a I forget, is it called? There's a blue water port there that they want. So sure. So anybody who is for this should be for what Russia did, and also, you should really end that war now, because what's happened over the last 4 years and the millions of lives who have been lost or people maimed, was a waste. If the United States has a right to do this in their own backyard as a superpower, then Russia, who I think has the most nukes in the whole world, and one of the biggest, probably one of the better abilities to manufacture their own weapons, which if you read Edward Lutback, he says that's how you become a sovereign country. You have to be able to manufacture your own weapons. Then you really have to let them run their own part of the world. And if you don't, well, other countries looking upon yours as being hypocritical, well, that's going to happen. And you could say, well, we're strong and everything. It's like, well, we were strong. We were a strong country on 9/11 too. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, I think people are very much overestimating the ability of the United States. Not that I really think there's anyone who would really be able to, especially come to our shores and do anything to us, but the idea that we're just going to go and fuck around with any country we want, and we're not going to deal with any issues with all this crazy talk where we see from the, we can do anything, no one's going to stop us. And you're like, I mean, until someone tries to fucking stop you and you're in the wrong country. I mean, this is the same mentality that led to Afghanistan. Like, obviously, we very much overpowered the absolute hell out of the Taliban. But when you're talking about decentralized force, it's a lot scarier. Also, I mean, I couldn't help. I have to mention Taiwan and China, obviously. Russia, Ukraine, same thing. Like, I know they're calling it the Don Road Doctrine, which kind of almost sounds like, I'll do whatever. Not even a hemisphere thing. It's just both hemispheres are mine, is what it seems like. But everyone keeps bringing up, this is in our purview, this is in our hemisphere. And I actually kind of flip that and go, yeah, that's in our hemisphere. So that's actually even more like, holy shit, my butthole's puckering up. Because while at least we're kind of, meandering in South America, I mean, the logic of this adventurism totally leads to why not invade Mexico? And that's literally on our border. And the closer we get to home...
I've actually said that I would accept that bet more. Mexico, the cartels, obviously anyone who knows anything knows that we work with the cartels there. Yeah. We work we're going to, like, people are like, well, cocaine was coming from Venezuela. It wasn't coming from Venezuela. It could have been coming through Venezuela, but the cocaine is going to come from somewhere else. The fentanyl's coming, a huge chunk of fentanyl is coming from Canada. And we're not even addressing the fact that fentanyl is coming from Canada. We're not addressing the CP, what I call or the CQ, the Canadian question. But if you would have said, okay, we're going into Mexico and we're going to take over Mexico and we're going to crush the cartels and we're going to, take Miss Scheinbaum out of power, and some maybe Marco will become and go and be like acting president of Mexico. I could actually accept that more because it's more of an immediate threat to me than Venezuela is.
Yeah, exactly. But that is like the point. Like this is this weird middling thing. Like I wouldn't support that, but it makes more sense than what they're doing in Venezuela. And the terrifying thing there, to me at least, is like, well, now you're talking about legitimate violence on our southern border. They can easily spill into, just the everyday. I mean, hell, everyone's heard of Northwoods when it came to Cuba. I mean, that was a little island off of our coast, and they were talking about doing false flag attacks. And I'm not even necessarily saying some spooky government actions. It could be legitimate cartels on our southern border doing violence to civilians, because violence can easily spill into the streets. This thing can get out of hand. So yeah, the whole like, oh, it's our own hemisphere. Like to me, that's like, well, that's a little bit more of a problem actually to me, because you're probably going to cause problems much closer to me. But getting into problems. Go ahead. Sorry.
Also, to me, my whole thing is deportations. That's all I really care about. If this administration spent 4 years deporting 75 million people, I would call it the greatest administration of all time. And I'm also being sold that, well, all the Venezuelans are going to go back to Venezuela now. Well, look at the numbers in El Salvador. El Salvador is the safest country in the Western Hemisphere, and less than 1% of El Salvadorans have gone back to El Salvador within the last 3 years. So don't try to bullshit me.
Yeah, obviously, this is going to make things worse. I'm not necessarily completely on board with you with that stuff, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but it is this ridiculous, like, this administration flouts itself as being, protectionist or border hawks or whatever, and then we're like, well, we're killing brownoids across over in South America, and you're like, how does that? That's literally making the problem worse. Like, even if you really hate brownoids, you're like, well, then you're going to get more of them coming here. But speaking of brownoids, we're still doing shit over in Somalia. They launched an airstrike during a helicopter raid. I think every day since the first, I believe there's been like at least an attack basically every day since the first. I think it looks like they're trying to outdo their record there. They got up to like something like almost a 120 last year. So I think the tally starts over. I believe that was like the past 4 presidents combined, and I believe it even doubled his previous record. So just absolute. And then we have all this Somalia stuff, although like you pointed out, this is stuff that's been going on for a while, but we've also been causing problems in Somalia for a while. But remember that old movie Black Hawk Down? It kind of never stopped. And we're still doing stuff over there. But on the bright side, I guess the U.S. suspended assistance to Somalia's federal government, saying it seized food aid. So I hope they keep that up. But I would think it'd be nice to also stop killing people over there. Maybe we could, between not giving them money, not killing them, maybe we even work on the welfare benefits over here. Maybe we can, maybe I wouldn't really complain too much about deportations. It's not really an issue I care about particularly. So between all those things combined, I feel like this problem could get a whole lot better. But I think we're likely going to end up continually dealing with the problem of Somalians coming to the United States because we're bombing them and then giving them welfare here. So I don't know, any thoughts on the foreign adventurism into Somalia that seems to never stop but only increase? But hey, at least we're giving them less money. So,
well, I mean, Somalia started bombing Somalia in the late 90s. They were made part of the 7 countries, and it always seems like if we bomb somewhere, refugees end up here. So, we're talking about this Somali problem of fraud in like 6 different states and everything. Well, how the hell did they get here? I mean, how many were here before the whole Black Hawk Down thing, before we really started bombing the crap out of them in 1997 and 1998, before, Bush decided that he was going to wage war on them. And the whole bombing thing is just, look, I'm a realist. Okay. If you wanted to stop Al-Shabaab, you basically arm, which we have been doing, but we don't let them loose. You arm Ethiopians and you let Ethiopians go in there and basically take the country over. But they don't want that, because if Ethiopians go in there and take the country over, then you have to deal with Ethiopians. But at least you could use them as soldiers for, from next door to go and do that. And it would be a lot cheaper. But, the bombs have to keep dropping because Raytheon and Boeing need to keep making money. The whole thing, Somalia, if it wasn't for oil and goods going through the Suez Canal and having to go around the Cape, it wouldn't even be a problem. That's why when you look at that one point there, you got Yemen on this side, most bombed country in the world, Somalia on this side, one of the most bombed countries in the world. It's all about commerce. So, I think that's a whole part of the Nigeria thing too, is Nigeria is on the West Coast. They have clean oil, and then you just load up tankers and you have a straight shot right to the Gulf of Mexico. So, this is all about commerce. It always has been. They've admitted it over and over again. The U.S. Navy exists to make sure that the commercial lanes in the world stay open.
Yeah, I agree with that. I guess maybe a little bit of a sidestep. I'd be curious, because that's kind of been, especially in the libertarian world, which I know you don't really consider yourself one, but I did find it interesting. That's kind of been the argument a lot of people have settled on when it came to the Venezuelan thing, is kind of that, like, oh, well, they stole the oil back in whenever the hell, and so now we got to come in and, come to the aid of these, private companies, quote unquote private companies, to ensure commerce flows correctly. And I find it kind of ridiculous. Like, I understand somewhat the argument, because, if you are to accept the existence of the government, it makes sense. Like, if there is any use for them to protect private property, contracts, yada, yada, yada. But I do think there would be at least some sort of realistic carve-out if we're talking about something outside the bounds of the literal continental United States, when you're talking about, I don't know, entities that make millions and billions of dollars, that perhaps it's not unreasonable for them to have to procure their own security. I know everyone's like, oh, that's ridiculous, but it's like, if you're making tens of millions of dollars, how hard is it to, I don't know, have a couple vessels that protect things here and there? I also think to some degree, it's on you where you're investing into, which is funny, because it's like people that I do, like, we have this protectionist bent where you're like, wouldn't that actually naturally incentivize keeping things at home, unless you're able to pay for it? And the taxpayer is going to pay for it either way. The difference is one's voluntary, is going to be under a different set of incentives, as opposed to the government incentive, which is to create the worst possible fucking thing for the most amount of money. So, it also kind of prevents this war hazard that we're currently dealing with. So, obviously, I don't advocate for, foreign countries, breaking the norms of private property, but I don't know if that's necessarily on the U.S. government to come to the aid of ExxonMobil with their private property fucking disputes over in Nigeria or something, I know if you have any thoughts on all that, because we're kind of on that topic.
Well, as much as I'd like to see companies pay for their own security, right now we're not at the point where we're going to be able to divorce commerce from government. So, the cleanest way possible. Yeah, it doesn't. You would think it would be a lot easier to go into Nigeria and negotiate with them. You would think it would be a lot easier to, negotiate with Venezuela. But, we're ruled by lunatics, and we're ruled by a foreign entity too, that has way too much influence in the country. So, and we see how that foreign enemy deals with their issues. They just drop bombs. Mm-hmm. So that's what we do.
Speaking of a foreign enemy, they killed another 2 Palestinians over in Gaza. I'm not going to linger on that one too much, because, what more do we have to say? Yes, they keep breaking the ceasefire. It's not really a ceasefire, but hey, that's still happening over there. And looks like we're getting ready to have a $1.5 trillion military budget for this next year. Here's Basil saying Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, and Palmer Luckey just fucking nutted. And then to kind of tie this back into Israel, with this new big old bucks a-coming. Apparently, there's a Polymarket account with 100% win rate. So bear in mind, I don't know. I don't really understand these betting markets, but I know a lot of people have been getting into these lately. But apparently they've bet that Iran will be attacked by Israel by January 31st. And I do have to say that completely comports to my understanding of the current reality. So I don't know, any thoughts on all that? They kind of all tie in together in my opinion. But yeah, looks like they beat that Iraq syndrome and we're going back to war, guys. So I don't know what you think about that, Pete.
I mean, I'm going to be doing interview tomorrow, doing an episode with a guy who's really up on Iran, who's over in Great Britain, and a buddy of mine who was in the military and did some wargaming of wars with Iran in the early aughts. Yeah, I mean, Iran is basically in civil war right now. One of the factions that's going around assassinating people has, I think they're Balgum. I'd have to look up the name. I don't know those fucking names. They're all Star Wars names to me. But they're historically CIA aligned. So yeah, I think we're seeing, not only are we seeing people from the inside who want regime change, but we're also seeing a color revolution on top of it. So yeah, I mean, I think that I wouldn't be surprised if there was something going on with Iran, with Israel attacking Iran by the end of the month. It's just a matter of if and when the United States starts dropping bombs on Iran too. I'm not one of these people who thinks boots on the ground is going to happen in Iran. I've studied it too. I mean, staging would take 2 years. That's basically what the Army War College has come up with. It historically, you'd have to stage for 2 years, and historically they've staged in Armenia. I don't think that's feasible at this point without invading Armenia. So yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. It's a wait and see thing. I mean, I just think that Iran is very shaky right now, and it's inevitable that something is going to happen. But normally, if we know anything from regime change in the Middle East, usually whoever takes over is usually worse.
Yep, 100%. I also don't think we'll see boots on the ground. Not that I'm some big military expert, but that seems to be, I know they're even talking about it in Venezuela, and even then I kind of doubt it. I just don't think despite all this grandstanding as if they beat the Iraq syndrome, I don't really think they did. I think this is, this they're playing this, the Nick Shirley game, the artificial boosted, they're trying to act as if they beat. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't have a correct finger on the pulse here, but I still don't think they've beat it. So, I mean, yes, I think we might see more military interventionism and these smash and grab type things, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of boots on the ground. But perhaps I could be wrong. Maybe they really want to break that syndrome as well. But again, the last story.
Quick correction. It's not Balgum. It's Baluch. Baluch. They're running around. They're an anti-regime group running around assassinating regime aligned people. So that's it.
All right, and well, let's get into the last foreign policy story on the Ukraine-Russia front. Apparently, Zelensky said Ukraine has not received a clear security guarantee from the West, which that's been the word going around. All these different reports from I forget some of the different foreign leaders. I know there was one person, some prime minister, who directly said yes, they've received it, but a security guarantee, kind of alluding to Article 5 style type stuff. But now we're having Zelensky saying otherwise. I don't really know what stock to put in. I mean, I covered these, back and forth of these peace deal things. I don't think we're seeing a peace deal anytime soon. Although it was alarming that they were floating about these security guarantees, so it seemed like we weren't going to get a peace deal. It looked like we were going to get a war deal that was just going to aggravate Russia more and perhaps accelerate things. So I don't know what the hell the thinking was behind the scenes, but now seems like they're backing off of this, or they never were doing it in the first place. So I don't know. Any thoughts on all of that? I don't know if you've been tracking the ins and outs of these so-called peace talks, despite the fact they seem to be anything but.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think anything concrete is going to be done until Zelensky is removed from the picture. He's an insolent little shit. He's owned by the oligarchs. Everyone has known that. And it seems that there are a lot of European countries that are willing to commit suicide in order to keep this war going. Financial suicide. France has talked about sending their own troops. Britain has mentioned that before. Germany has mentioned that. It just makes no sense. To me, it is not an old, but a centuries old war where the people who won World War II, who got their own nation shortly thereafter, and have had undue influence over the whole continent, they have a centuries old grudge against Russia, and they just want to see it destroyed. And it just so happened that 80% of Biden's cabinet was at the time was had straight descendants from the Pale of Settlement and Ukraine, so they had an axe to grind. So I don't know. Trump said he could have settled this on day one, and I don't think he could have. I don't think he understood just exactly how complicated this is. I do think that if Trump had won in 2020, there was a chance that he could have prevented this. But we also have to remember that Barack Obama gave money to Ukraine, but Trump sent arms to Ukraine. So this is, a lot of people like to pretend that this is a very that Ukraine is a very simple operation, but remember, a simple situation, a simple conflict. But remember that when President Putin was interviewed, he started by giving the history of Russia. Mm-hmm. Because, it's like when people talk to me about the Spanish Civil War, I usually start talking about the Spanish Civil War in the 8th century, because you can't, our history is 250 years old. Europe's history is much longer. And these things did not happen overnight. So
yeah, it's like talking about World War II without talking about World War I. You're missing a big piece of the puzzle. All right, let's move into the main topic of today. We're dealing with white genocide, folks. They killed a lady. There was a lady killed. Who is this? What's her name? Renee Macklin in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Sounds like she was some sort of writer. I guess she had a podcast with her husband, it says. So this is the lady who got, everyone's, I'm sure, seen pop up on their screen. I'll show you my take real quick, I guess, before we get into... actually, let's look at Donald's take. Here is Donald's take. I'm sure we'll probably end up evaluating some of the videos and stuff. I'm interested to see what Pete's take is on this. But here's Trump. He says, I have just viewed the clip of the event which took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It is a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator, and the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer, who seems to have shot her in self-defense. Based on the attached clip, it is hard to believe he is alive, but is now recovering in the hospital. The situation is being studied in its entirety, but the reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. They are just trying to do the job of making America safe. We need to stand by and protect our law enforcement officers from this radical left movement of violence and hate. Now, I do want to add, I did see probably maybe like 30 minutes before we started, I was kind of looking through, getting all this stuff ready for the show, and I found, it was, I think, it was a New York Post or Times, or I forget who it was, but I had it behind a paywall, so I wasn't able to find a version. But apparently, maybe here soon, we'll maybe tomorrow or something, maybe we'll find it. But apparently, I guess they're saying that he walked some of this stuff back because I guess he was asked in a press conference and somebody showed him the video or something. So I don't know, maybe more on that. But I guess I'll just give my take real quick and then we'll talk to Pete about it. I was being a little bit intentional here. I said I saw an attempted kidnapping and subsequent murder of a woman. Simple as. Said pretty pathetic to bend oneself in pretzels to act like it was anything other than that. Now, I do want to say the attempted kidnapping, I was being a little bit contentious. Like, that's what every arrest is, an attempted kidnapping. It's just a matter of whether you support that specific kidnapping or not. So a lot of people got uppity about that, but it was like, I don't know. That's my opinion. It was a kidnapping and murder. I also think framing it in that way kind of frames it in a different way. You look at a law enforcement action in a different way. If this is an attempted kidnapping every time, now you may say certain kidnappings are justified, but either way, you're still kidnapping someone. So it's a little bit, I think, the onus is on you to not murder someone. So, I mean, there are a little bit extenuating circumstances sometimes, but before I get into maybe video analysis, if we even go that route, I guess I'd be kind of interested to hear what you think about the situation, Pete. I don't know if you've really been analyzing all the different videos. Now, I do want to say, I did follow up. That said, don't be retarded. Just do whatever the fuck the dude with the gun says. Being polite helps too. said, but I'm also not going to suck the dick of murderers. So that's like kind of my view on it. I'm not a huge fan of cops, but I mean, like, at the end of the day, I'm going to be the most polite white person whenever I get pulled over. Hello, officer, how are you? Because I know they have a gun, and I don't want to get domed like this lady did. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, Pete? I know you're a little bit, like we kind of got a little bit to immigration. You're kind of all about deporting and stuff, which I get, but obviously you can, be for that and not be for, what happened here. So this seems to be this kind of a little bit of a silly politically charged situation, in my opinion. I mean, I know it's just find it bizarre to me that, the right kind of being the freedom, liberty people, and then kind of falling on this. Like, I get it. This lady probably seemed like a kind of a whack job, perhaps. I mean, from the little bit we've heard from her, I think she was kind of blocking some sort of something. I mean, which we'll get into that. But I don't know, Pete, what are your thoughts?
She was literally out there with her wife, basically leading this blockade of that's why her vehicle was there, and she was told to move. Look, I'm sorry. I look for friends and I look for enemies. This seems like the kind of person that when Charlie Kirk got killed, she probably celebrated it. I'm not shedding a tear for the bitch.
Yeah, I'm not sad about it either, to be honest. But I guess my thing would just be more. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of law enforcement either. When they do something good, I say they did something good. If they save someone's life, if they save a cat, they save a dog, I'm happy about it. If they do something wrong, I tell them they did something wrong. I have a tendency to really look at what happened during COVID and have a negative, just an overall negative view of the police. But I don't see, like, I see this country turning into South Africa very quickly, unless immigration. I mean, the Somalis do not belong here. Mm-hmm. All they are is a patronage network of the regime that's existed for 80 years. And they're basically, Haitians do not belong in Springfield, Ohio. They don't belong in South Florida. I'm sorry. I'm not going to apologize for bringing 65 IQ people into a country and being under a system where you at least have to be able to entertain a hypothetical in order to survive.
Yeah,
you have to know what you had to know how you felt. If I ask you, how you would feel if you hadn't had breakfast this morning, you have to know how to answer that properly.
Yeah, unfortunately, that might be asking a little bit too much for the government workers administering the test. But yes, the Somalians. I'm definitely not a fan of ushering these people in. I've always kind of been a little bit agnostic of the whole border situation, giving kind of my politics, but I'm not really a voter or anyone pushes for doing anything, but I definitely am, I guess, if anything, this Trump administration's kind of soured me to it, because it is like all of these, protection, which I kind of is like, I guess a little bit we were getting at with the Venezuela stuff, all these like protectionist vibes and stuff, and it's like these have completely seemingly gotten subverted and kind of gotten flipped on their head to where it's like, oh, we're going to push for, the borders being secured. Instead, that ends up somehow becoming, oh, we're going to bomb foreign countries because there's brownoids over there. Then it becomes, oh, we're going to, revoke visas for saying, nary a word about Israel. And it kind of gets subverted, slowly but surely. Meanwhile, the people that you actually want deported, I mean, maybe there might be some middling here and there. I don't know, something or other. But so it's kind of like, and I mean, sure, I totally get the idea of like wanting to be like, if I could just snap my fingers and say, get rid of all the subversive, foreigners or whatever that have come over here, during whatever periods of time. But unfortunately, it's kind of a game of incentives and, kind of the government that is there and what are they going to do? I mean, I don't know, maybe in the future, some more radical government will come in place and actually enact these things, and maybe it will be positive. I don't have the more I've seen government act, the less faith I've had in them being able to essentially pull off like a Hoppian type thing and create some semblance of something similar to how this would likely work, in immigration, whether that be a sponsor program or whatever. I don't necessarily trust them to approximate them. And so I'm more of the push away from foreign policy entanglements, push away from welfare. Definitely do not be giving these guys any money to come over here. And I don't know, maybe there'd be some creative ways to deal with the border to prevent people from coming over that I might not be so against. But it seems like all of these, this energy that they came in with has been very much subverted. So,
sure,
I guess
no, I agree 100%. And I also, recognize that you can deport 75 million people, and then the next Democrat that gets elected just throws the borders wide open again. I just don't see how we survive. It's like, I've said this over and over again, and libertarians don't want to hear it, especially the ones who are open borders, is, look, you're trying to get people to adopt libertarianism. Why would you already have an insurmountable task with the native population? Why would you want to invite other people in? Mm-hmm. Why would you want to increase the number of people that you believe that you have to convince? Yeah. I remember the first time, I like Michael Bolden a lot from the 10th Amendment Center. I respect the hell out of him. And he told me the first time I ever interviewed him, he said, look, man, we're not going to have a libertarian dictatorship. You can't force libertarianism upon people. I said, then, when you think about that, okay, well, it totally goes against the concept of libertarianism. You can't force things on other people. Okay, then how are you going to have this? So basically what you're saying is you're just going to have to convince people, which is basically democracy. You're going to have to use a democratic process to convince people that they want this. Well, why would you want more people? Wouldn't it seem easier to convince 100 people than 1 million people? To convince 10,000 people than 350 million people? And Hoppe has the right idea when he talks about things getting smaller and having like independent city states and things like that. But most people, their minds are the regime, the social engineering regime has gotten them to the point where they can tell you like the name of the president, the name of the secretary of state, the name of the speaker of the house, but they can't tell you the name of the mayor or who runs the school board in their town. Mm-hmm. So, Hoppe, as much as I do, appreciate what Hoppe has to teach, especially the what must be done speech, which I think is, incredible. And I refer to all the time. People, if 2020 taught us anything, people are waiting around being told what to do. Maybe not the people in the chat, maybe not the people who are subscribed to the Mises Institute, maybe not to the C4SS people, but most people are not you. Mm-hmm. Most people are not us. Most people are not out there reading the kind of books that we read and viewing how the state operates in the way that we do. So the only way that you're going to, if your idea is to have a society as you wish, well, you're actually going to have to do something to make that happen. And unfortunately, it's normally what that's going to entail is that your precious little principles, you're probably going to have to leave them aside, at least to build what, it's fascism has never arisen on its own. It's always a response to communism. It's always a response to Bolshevism.
Yeah, I guess the way I envision is just more, I've looked at this more and more of just incentives and like what options there are. And essentially you have the like deportations or certain things would be kind of the vague state options. And then you have essentially the non-state or asking the state to do less, essentially, like i.e. not no welfare sort of stuff, stop bombing foreign countries. And I know it sounds ridiculous, and you're probably not really going to get either. But if you are, the way I look at it, if someone's advocating for the state option, I mean, as I was kind of getting with the subversion, I mean, perhaps there could be some theoretical future administration that this somehow doesn't work. They break the incentive game. But the way I see it, the government's incentivized to give you the worst product for the most amount, and also probably not even give you what you really wanted in the first place, as we kind of described. So while it is like that'd be cool if we got, I just kind of feel like it's almost like we're not going to. And you'd be better off putting your energy into advocating for things like not increasing the welfare system, not
but you're not going to get
countries.
But you're not going to get that.
Yeah.
So
no, you're not going to get either. It's just a matter of at least
Right.
you're not leaning into their incentives and making it worse. Would be my opinion. That's the way I see it. So, I mean, maybe
Right,
I'm missing something here. Yeah.
If Congress decided that they were going to pass a law tomorrow that it was a straight flat tax of 10% across the board for everybody. I mean, that makes our lives better, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Now, is that going to happen? No. But if we can deport the worst of the worst, and we can deport people who, Ilhan Omar this is why I love the Zionists, people like Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro, who are clearly Israel first. They criticize Ilhan Omar for saying, I'm here to serve the Somali people. I don't care about Americans. I'm only here to serve the Somali people. I mean, if that isn't the look, I'm not I don't think I'm the smartest guy in the world. I'm not a genius, but I know what deflection looks like. I know what. Don't look at me because I'm doing something. Look at that person over there. And as far as I'm concerned, Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin, to me, are the same as Ilhan Omar. I put them in the same bowl. They all have to go. They all have to go. They either have to leave, or they have to have their have any kind of power and influence taken away from them, because they're destroying what has been built by others. A bunch of people built something. You could say it's not you could say it's not perfect. You could say it hurts people. You could say whatever. They make it worse. That's why, every once in a while, you'll be like, somebody who's anti-immigration will say, a lot of the people come here and they commit crimes. And then some kind of lolcow will go, well, people from here commit crimes too. Yeah. The fucking point is, why are you importing more? I grant you that heritage Americans commit crimes. Why the fuck would you want more people to import more people who commit crimes? I mean, that's not an argument. It's, the people who've, one of the reasons I left libertarianism is because I realized that it becomes people's identity and it becomes their morality. They can't argue morality from a metaphysical standpoint or from a philosophical standpoint. True philosophy. Politics isn't philosophy. Mm-hmm. So they adopt a political opinion, and that becomes not only their morality, but it becomes their identity, which is why you never hear them. They can't have an opinion outside of the group chat, because they'll get kicked out of the group chat, and all of a sudden they'll have a fucking meltdown. I've seen this personally. Jose knows I've seen this happen personally. Yeah. It is fucking sad to see when people do not have real in life flesh on flesh relationships with people.
Yes, for
that's
sure.
Not supposed to sound. That's not supposed. That wasn't supposed to sound as illicit as it did. But person to person.
Yeah. Flesh on flesh. But I get what you mean. It is now, funny enough, though, I think that this is what kind of, I guess, to get back to, I don't think we'll belabor this too much, maybe watch one video, but I do think this is kind of what that's become a little bit, sort of this stupid team politic thing, where it's become, if you're pro whatever, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I'm completely open to this person probably sucks, but it has become this unthinking, you're on this team. You can literally probably, the shoe on the other foot or whatever, and it would be completely flipped if you put on an ATF hat and it was something else. If there's a different administration, it'd be totally different. So it kind of seems to be this unthinking thing a little bit here. I mean, you can still be like, fuck this lady, what she did was retarded, and also be like, that was really fucked up what the cop did there, ICE agent. But let's watch this video real quick. So for those who haven't seen it, this is a shorter one. I have a bunch of other ones.
The video
the
video from down the street over there clearly shows that he was hit by the vehicle.
Yes, he did get a little tap. Well, I guess we can show that one too. I have a few different angles. I just didn't want to belabor it and watch like 12 different angles because it kind of get into the weeds of like this one, that one. Like, did he touch him?
I can think cop. I can not like cops, but know not to grab their gun.
100%. Yeah. Well, we pay for that, so that's ours, guys. So you can just grab those. That's obviously a joke. Don't do that.
Yeah, please do not do that.
But let's. Do I have it up? Yes, I do. All right, let's watch this real quick. Here is. I mean, there's longer versions you guys can find. This is kind of the major thing. You have her in the middle of the street. So let's watch this real quick. She's waved on a car past her, waving on other cars, getting ready to go. So it's 3 shots. I guess we can find. I'll see if I can find the angle where they hit her, or it looks like they hit. It's a little bit grainier. I don't know if you've seen any better views of the one where they did touch him a little bit. So, which obviously, you know what I mean. Say you could have fucked him up, you know. So, because the only one I've been able to see is this grainy one. But let's watch this real quick. Yeah. Zone in on this guy's. It's in slow mo too. So it looks like it bonked him a little bit. I mean, it definitely, obviously, I'm not trying to like necessarily downplay. He could have gotten hurt, you know. I'm not but as I said before, I mean, I don't know. A lot of people are like, oh, you fired. I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to be the annoying person who's like, oh, you could just shoot him in the legs or shoot the tires or some dumb shit.
Yeah, that is so fucking. You know how many people are like, you can shoot. Look, these are people who've never been punched in the mouth and never been in a fight. You don't know what you're going to do in a situation where your adrenaline just absolutely spikes. If you've ever been, I mean, I grew up in New York City. I've been jumped. You don't know what you're going to do at that moment. You know, you could get jumped and have a gun, and your adrenaline spikes so hard you forget you have a gun. You don't even remember that you have it. So it's like, I mean, all this Monday morning quarterbacking and everything, and then to just say, well, police are illegitimate, so they shouldn't be there. Shut the fuck up, you libertarian douchebags. Come on. Just deal with the fucking real world for a second, okay? You know, I mean, if there were no police, you'd just be somebody's fucking rape boy. You'd just be bent over somewhere. Most people would be in the worst situation possible. I'm not saying the police are there to save you. I'm not even saying if you're getting killed, they're going to show up and save you. But the fact that they exist keeps a lot of people in line. You know, there's famously Omar Mateen when he went to shoot up nightclubs in Orlando. You remember him right there at the Pulse nightclub shooter?
Yeah. He
had initially went to a Disney. He wanted to shoot up a Disney resort. He showed up and he saw that there were armed guards there. Then he pulled out a phone and literally Googled nightclubs in my area, found the Pulse, went to the Pulse and saw that there was nobody there. There were no armed guards. So to say, oh, the police don't do it. I'm sorry. Look, Somalia, I know people. I know at least one person I've talked to who went to Somalia when there was no government there. It wasn't the libertarian paradise that people want you to believe it was. And it's not because Somalia's soil is bad. It's because there's Somalis there.
Yeah. Now to kind of make this issue a little bit worse, we have there. Apparently, they did try to prevent a physician. I watched the video. I don't know if you saw this. So it's not looking good. I mean, I'm still of this guy should get into, I don't know exactly what, some sort of trouble. I mean, maybe it'd be justifiable if it was just the one shot, but I mean, he unloaded 3 in there. I mean, I don't know. And I know, like I don't shoot tires,
but you're trained to do that. You're trained to take more than one shot. You're trained to stop the target. You're trained to, okay, there's a target, there's a threat. and neutralize the threat. You're not trained to shoot people in the leg. I mean, think about I've taken a bunch of classes on shooting. They always say, if you get in a situation where you're going to kill the person, because if you shoot them in the leg, you don't know what could happen. They could keep coming. Also, if you shoot them in the leg, they could friggin', they could decide, a DA could decide that you had time to get away, if you had time to make this decision, yada yada, and everything. I sure there was like fucked up shit that happened in Afghanistan. I know it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you were in Afghanistan and you're fucking on patrol and somebody comes over a friggin' ridge and they point an AK at you, you're not stopping to think, is that an 8-year-old kid? Yeah.
No, I agree. I'm just more getting at the number means intent. It kind of shows intentionality. So anyone try to say it was like an accident or something or whatever, I think that shows at least they were intentional. There's also the them preventing physician to be able to get there, which I thought was a little bit wild. So I don't know. I would hope that this guy sees some sort of consequences in some shape or form. I mean, now it might be a little bit kind of in the nuance, the specifics of it. But yeah, I don't really. I'm still the opinion that this isn't okay. I mean, there might even be a bit of a shaver type component to this. Now, I will say this is early reporting, so I'm a little bit. I'm skeptical of it.
Sure, it's we haven't practiced a 48-hour rule here either. So
yeah. No, yes, not at all. So many things can change here. There is this early reporting here from this person named Callinson. Who was, or I don't know if this is, was not the neighbor, but I don't know, who was one of these people in the area, that witnessed it. They said that apparently, obviously this is super, weak as it is, but they're saying that ICE gave her orders to leave. Personally, I'm not a fan of the situation. I hope this cop, frankly, loses his badge. Now, is this necessarily an indictment on law enforcement, altogether, or is this an indictment on necessarily ICE? Not necessarily. Those are separate conversations, in my opinion. This one is, I don't know. This was a situation, in my opinion, he inserted himself in, jumped in front of the car. I mean, let's be real. I get it. It did kind of come towards him, but it's a little bit. It kind of comes off as a little much for me.
But it's like starting. It's like when you want to talk about the Ukraine war and you start in February of 2022. No, you have to go back to we could go back centuries, but at least go back to the 1990s. Where they said we're not going to encroach. They were down there they were blocking traffic. She was the lead car to block traffic and to block ICE from operating. Okay. You've inserted yourself into a situation now. Okay. You've inserted, this is the thing. People think they live in a fucking superhero movie until they get shot in the face. They think they're the good guy in a superhero movie. And then they get shot in the face, and everybody's like, "Oh, well, why did that happen?" Look, you can be 100% for citizen militias trying to stop ICE from deporting people. But if you're going to put yourself in between, if you're going to put yourself in front of armed people who have the legal right, whatever you think of legality, don't care. To fire, to shoot people, to kill people. I mean, I'm sorry. She knew what she was getting into, and I mean, taking away the fact that this person was probably my enemy, would probably be happy if my wife was killed in front of me. Because of my beliefs, are, to the right of Bernie Sanders, probably to the right of Mussolini, but that's another story. I'm sorry. You put yourself into a highly tense situation, and then you decided you were going to drive away. And I mean, on an icy road, you start spinning the wheels on an ice, when there's ice out, you don't know where that fucking car is going. Is this a good shoot? I don't know. I talked to a friend of mine who hates the police, is a libertarian, works at a big libertarian outlet. And he goes, as much as I hate to admit it, this looks like a good shoot. Now, if he's prosecuted in Minnesota, is he going to get a fair trial? Maybe not. Who the hell knows? But she inserted herself into a volatile situation. You ever notice it? Like, it's very rare that you see people who are considered to be on the right go out and do street protest.
Yeah, got better shit to do.
Yeah. And normally when they do, they get jammed up somehow. I mean, not to mention the fact that they've had 10 to 15 years of thinking this is their right to do this, and nobody else has the right to do it. The Proud Boys just showed up. This group that like cares more about cereal, like what kind of cereal they eat in the morning, than they do about right-wing values. And there's a bunch of Browns in the group. Well, these are fascists. Okay. I'm not a Proud Boys fan. I'm kind of neutral on them, but I don't see them showing up to cause chaos. I don't see them showing up to burn down, to burn cities. I don't see them showing up to, go after someone with an AR-15 in the middle of the street. I see them showing up most of the time to try to bring order to a situation that has no order. Mm. Right, she inserted herself into a situation, man. I have a hard time feeling sorry for her, no matter how I feel about the police. And my usual impulse is not to trust them.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to the next segment. Let's talk a little bit about the Troon Terror. We're going to kind of tie this in, I guess, loosely into kind of the current FBI and kind of the silliness over there. But we've kind of had this ongoing, I mean, we kind of alluded to a little bit the leftist violence. We've had some of the weirdness between the Posobics of the world, the Benny Johnsons claiming that they're getting death threats and this and that, which, to be very clear, I've gotten death threats. I'm sure you've gotten death threats. So, like, I mean, I don't know. To me, it feels a little bit like, okay, that's not cool. I guess if you're able to, if it's actionable, it'd be cool if those things get, but it did kind of seem to be a little bit of blown out proportion. Now, obviously, I do think there is also an organic component of violence in the left, but we're kind of seeing this theme pop back up, maybe sometimes organic, maybe sometimes a little bit pushed. But we have J.D. Vance. He's saying he's appreciating everyone well wishes from his attack on his home. Apparently, a crazy person tried to break into his house by hammering the windows. Let's look at this person real quick, because the look at him is what really sends it. I thought it was like a little boy at first. This goofy looking goober somehow got into the vice president's estate and was hammering windows, which that on its face is already like, how the fuck did that happen? But apparently this is a daughter of a Democrat donor surgeon. It was a tranny right here. And obviously, I mean, you can kind of easily tie this into some like the Kirk stuff with all the Troon Terror and stuff like that. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that before we maybe dig a little bit deeper into some other aspects of this topic, Pete. Like, I don't know. What do you make of this? This seems weird to me. I don't know. I mean, not to be too schizophrenic, but some just seems weird. I mean, maybe whatever. This goofball's just out here hammering windows. But I guess maybe thoughts of this being indicative of some larger problem, or what are your thoughts on all that?
Well, I mean, I think we have a mental illness problem. I think that's very clear. Yeah. And I think one of the I guess, poll stars that you can point to is the fact that we have there is a trans epidemic, and we don't hear a lot about it anymore because the right was concentrating more on it when Biden was in office to their detriment. I started talking about trans people for a while, and then I on my Substack, and then I stopped because it's just demoralization. It's demoralizing to people to see these absolute freakazoids, every day, like end wokeness, like just end wokeness, and that other the Jewess who runs that account. I can't remember what that lives at TikTok kind of thing.
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, we have a mental illness problem, and one of the reasons I think we have a mental illness problem is that we just we're spiritually, I mean, just bankrupt. We have been for a very long time, and yeah, you have a lot of people in places that promote it because it's a lot of people are just subversive and have a contrarian nature. So it's like, oh, this seems, if I become an expert in this thing, then, I can stand out. And I think when you see a lot of people who promote transgenderism and stuff like that, I mean, I think it's just a lot of ego involved. But no, we have a mental health problem. Now, was this person there targeting JD Vance? I don't know. Who the hell knows? But after the shooting at the Covenant School in Tennessee, and one of the things you don't hear about is that a lot of these mentally ill people who think that they're another sex, they make plans to do stuff like this, and they get stopped. Either family catches on to it or police catch on to it. I mean, there is a lot of this violence going on, and taking the Charlie Kirk story on its face, that would be another one. But yeah, I think it's just, I think we're seeing mental illness, and in my opinion, it has to do with people want to worship something, and worshiping, a lot of people worship politics, they worship philosophy, they worship God, and a lot of people worship the fact that they're different than everyone else. And people will, if people find a way to make money off of that, they'll promote it.
Mm-hmm. I think Clavicular's got it right. I do think he's a goofball. I do think Clavicular's got it right in that it's just one more person to mog. That's the right way to look at it. Maybe not quite be so mean-hearted, but just kind of the idea of just look past, and better yourself, so that way by contrast, because, I mean, as you point out with the mental health, that this comes from, let's be real, the mog settling in, the, oh shit, like I sexually mutilated myself and now I'm destroyed. So, and I also think some of this playing nice that people do on a social level, I'm not saying you should necessarily be shitty to these people, but this idea of coddling them, telling them this is great, they're affirming themselves, whatever, this leads them down a dark path, and they somewhat, maybe not justifiably, might not be the wrong word, but understandably feel a little bit fucked up once the reality starts to settle in, and you go, oh shit, I've destroyed myself. I can't breed. I'm never going to be able to, enjoy the warmth of a woman. I'm never going to have my children on my lap, be able to bounce on my lap. All of these things that really define what a human is. And I know we simplify it as simple as ooh, pee-pee and vagina, but it really does, that is the founding building blocks of life, and you are destroying that. And I think something about just flourishing and living a good life and creating children and kind of looking past these distorted troons, and it kind of creates an example for them, and you're not coddling them into this behavior. You're creating a new social paradigm so that they don't fall into this pitfall. But I mean, I do feel bad for these people, because it was probably they had people in their lives to some degree that were kind of these coddlers that brought them along this dark path. But anyways, let's check in. Speaking of Troon Terror,
one last comment.
Yeah, one more. Go for it. Yeah.
Maybe there's no direct correlation, but a lot of this started picking up when public asylums were closed. Bongino. Oh, this is great, God. I love this.
I mean, it's a little bit of a rough ham-fisted tying this into this topic, but I know Troon Terror, the feds, they're handling this. This is it's kind of like the white supremacy of now is the Troon Terror. This is the kind of, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's legitimacy to it. There any good thing, there's legitimate to it, but that is kind of what the current administration is trying to push, this left thing, which there's a lot of organic components to it. But I also do think it's kind of being used to I don't know, to get what they want. But here's Bongino. He recently came back on a show. He's out. I guess this was always the plan. So let's
he got a promotion from FBI to podcaster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, now he's going to finally change things. So here we go.
It's I heard you cleared out your office. Do you know how many times that story was printed? that I cleared out my office. And I said, okay. I said, do me a favor. Because I knew it was bullshit. I mean, I must have been written about that I resigned 100 times. I was resigned at the end of the year. That was it. There was always a plan. So, the rumors of my death were greatly exaggerated, your famous quote. But they would say, we heard you cleaned out your office.
So now he's saying that it was always the plan for him to get out. And I do want to point out, now he can finally come out and, say the truth about people like James Jimmy Kane, who used to be a CEO of Bear Stearns. He's known of having a close relationship with Epstein, prostitutes, drugs. Here's a nice little photo. I guess we just doxing him live. I don't give a shit. Here's all his information. So this was in the Epstein Black Book. So what are your thoughts on Bongino? The kind of, the good they did. Do you think this was always planned, him come in, do a year, get out, or do you think this is just mega cope?
I mean, it's amazing that this is a guy who built a career and, from what I understand, made millions and millions of dollars on talking about the Epstein files. And then as soon as he gets into power, and Kash Patel, another one, I mean, street shitting, well, whatever. He, talked about shutting down the FBI and all this and turning the J. Edgar Hoover building into a museum to the deep state, which I was all for 100%. Get rid of the FBI as fucking who needs it. But then they get in there and then they do that thing with, where they bring in the MAGA influencers and give them the binders of like literally information that was already public that they redacted. They read and gave it to them, and then they get to hold it up like a trophy. I mean, talk about discrediting. But I always go back to that interview that Kash Patel and Bongino did together, where they both looked like their kids were being held off camera with a gun to their heads.
Yeah, they probably were.
Yeah. There is, I mean, look, I don't believe that there is any fixing this system. Something new has to be done. I just think that immigration has been an existential threat. I think that if the system is going to keep going on, that, if you can get immigration fixed for a little while, it gives us a chance, at least if it's for 3 years, it gives us a chance to build locally and build things that, and for prices to go down on things, because prices aren't going to go down on their own. You're going, you get rid of 100 million, you get rid of 7,500 million people, housing prices are going down. The prices of groceries are going down. That's just, there's no demand. And so the prices are going to go down. But yeah, I mean, it's obvious that this system is irreparable. Now, I don't see any, I know if you have a libertarian black-white brain that you hear me say that, and then you hear me wanting to have mass deportations, but that's just because you lack nuance. You lack the nuance to understand that, if Trump's in for 3 more years and JD Vance is in for 8 years, that gives me and my friends 11 years to build something without, Biden's FBI that was friggin', or Biden's, Justice Department, who ran that, by the way, and where was his family from, arresting and throwing in jail little old ladies for praying the rosary outside of abortion clinics. I don't think that JD Vance is going to target me. And I agree with Daryl Cooper that, 8 years of JD Vance just is not going to solve the problem of government. This state, the Westphalian state is obsolete. It's an anachronism at this point, but we need to be able to have some time to build what's next. And the less maniacs and psychopaths that we have around us while we're trying to do that, the better. But I don't know. I have a real problem with people who are like, this is exactly how you solve it. Just end the state, bro. This is exactly how you solve it. Tell me, get me from here to there. If you have a solution to something, get me from here's the problem, here's the solution. The friggin' underpants gnome. A, C, and in the middle, you get from to profit, but what's in the middle? Tell me how you get from here to there. Or are you just screaming from the bleachers on the internet about how right you are theoretically? And it's only theory because you can't get me from here to there. You have no plan for it. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Let's continue down this line of thinking. We've kind of created this weird dialectic within the current right, where now it's at least when it comes to certain conspiratorial type concepts. So this kind of ties into the Troon Terror. You mentioned Charlie Kirk earlier. It's you're either Team Candace and Team Tucker, or you're Team Fed Slop, is what it's become these days. I'm kind of curious where you are with the Candace craziness. I was someone who was following her along. I always kind of knew she was a little bit sloppy. It was kind of but like, I don't know, I was a little bit interested in her bucking her Zionist masters. I've soured a little bit. Here's we're just kind of broadly talking about Candace here, but here's the eclectic journalist bringing up the social autopsy thing from her past, which I know people grow, they change, but at the same time, you should probably maybe be a little bit aware of people's histories, the way you can kind of be indicative of what patterns may present themselves. But Candace Owens, a lot of people may not realize, she literally created like a doxing site to deal with people who said no words like nigger and jeet or kike, those sorts of things, because, oh no, we can't have those people in society because someone called her a no word in college back in the day. So that this is, kind of one of the current darlings of the right. I'm kind of curious where you're at with this whole dialectic. Now, to be clear, I very much doubt with 30-06 was absorbed by fucking Charlie Kirk's neck. So there is some credence to that, but does that mean I'm buying into Egyptian planes and Mitch Snow, the super spooky military man, saying, trust me, bro? I don't necessarily think so. It's getting a little bit of parody level to me. I'm curious where you're at with all this. I assume you're probably not even really following along, but even just from the periphery, what are you thinking about all this nonsense?
Well, it looked like she was doing some decent scholarship on like the Jewish question there for a while, when she was talking historically, like the Bolsheviks, and talking about the history in Russia. And just Jewish power and international Jewry in general, and then she went off the rails, and I think that she, maybe someone sent a picture of where her children sleep, or sent her a picture of where her children sleep, or something like that. When I saw Charlie Kirk get shot, and I saw one of the videos like right afterwards and up close of him getting hit, and then you see what looked like arterial spray to me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was happening, and I didn't know, my first thought wasn't, what caliber is that? It wasn't until it's like, it was with a Mauser, it was a 30-06, and I'm like, I've shot stuff with it.
Yeah.
Anyone who's
why isn't
shot
the backdrop painted right now?
It's like, I've seen deer just like dismantled by, their shoulders
grandpa
dismantled by.
My grandpa, when we were hunting, I remember once when I was a kid, shot a deer. Like, it already got shot by, I think, my uncle, and so we were tracking it, and then we came upon it. He was on top of a hill, and it came upon the deer at the bottom of the hill. The deer started running and kind of like doing this leaping as it goes, and he caught it perfectly under the stomach to where it like literally gutted it, and like, so just absolute carnage everywhere, just all the guts flown out, and that's just from a simple 30-06, completely opened that fucking deer up. But yet fucking Charlie Kirk flexed, I guess. So.
Yeah, so then it's kind of hard to ignore the Bridget Macron stuff.
Yeah.
There's a special level of insanity there where that you would, that is the slop. If you want to, scream at someone for engaging in slop, the whole Bridget Macron thing, it's like, that almost felt personal, so, and then, they've taken a contract out to kill me. What happened to that? Whatever happened with that? Where's the follow-up on that? And then, the Charlie Kirk thing is weird enough, like I said, just the 30-06, watching that kid who, his dad's the past, what's his name? McCoy.
Yep.
Just like immediately, people are like, people react to different. Yeah. It's like my reaction to a gun going off is to hit the floor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I hear something and I don't know where it's coming from, I'm hitting the floor. I'm not walking away. And like, if my buddy, if I'm standing there and my buddy gets shot, you're going to have to fucking tear me off of him as I'm trying to help him, you know, and just too much weird shit happened there. But I mean, she's gone so, I mean, the Egyptian planes and everything like that. Sure. I mean, there's a chance that this is a complete psyop. From what I understand, the kid has not confessed that he was actually turned in, you know, by his family. I think there might, if you want to take just a mainstream view on it, I think there's a better chance that the Troon lover was the one who did it, and he's like covering for the Troon lover. But I mean, when it comes down to it, the thing I hate the most about stuff like this is it's like Butler, it's like 9/11, it's like the Boston Marathon bombing was the first one that ever like sent me down a rabbit hole, man. There's so much wrong with the Boston Marathon bombing. You're just never going to know. We're never going to know. And once you accept the fact that you're never going to know, then you just concentrate on the why. You know, cui bono, who benefits from what. And what I see this happening is either TPUSA is going to be destroyed, or they're going to become what they seem to have become, is a mouthpiece for Israel. And they were always, you could make the argument that they were always a mouthpiece for Israel, but it wasn't as blatant as it is now, where it's just like so out in the open that this is about international Jewry and Jewish power. So, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I don't know. Candace married some guy who's worth $100 million and is like, has a British royal title or something like that, from what I understand.
He's a member of like the British Skull and Bones.
Yeah. He's like TPUK. He's like one of the higher up, if not the runs. I don't know, but I know he's associated with TPUK. So, I mean, I don't know. It's Candace is a slot merchant extraordinaire. Just a slot merchant extraordinaire. She knows how, you know, if I could say she's done anything, the only thing positive I could see is maybe I know that it's a lot of like soccer moms and like that watch her. Hopefully she's J-pilled a bunch of them. But in the J-pilling, they've also ingested an incredible amount of slop. So it's like I'd rather they come and listen to my reading of 200 Years Together by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. But you know, it's like I'm not a slop merchant.
What could you do? I doubt a lot of the wine moms are coming to you for this. Maybe
it's
one
fine.
or two.
It's fine. It's perfectly fine.
It's probably better for your sanity and your live chat, anyways.
Well, yeah, and it keeps eyes off me too. So
you mentioned never really knowing what's going on. It's kind of funny. This has come up a few times when it comes to the Venezuela stuff, and I think this is another thing we may never really know what's going on. We got all these photos of Maduro kind of looking dripped out, looking cool as shit, not looking unbothered, moisturized in his lane over and over again, and everyone's kind of, I don't know, understandably speculating that, like, what the fuck is going on here? But, I mean, like, 80 plus people died in that whole operation, so it is like, I highly doubt we're ever going to find out there was some sort of deal or this or that, but perhaps. But I guess kind of tie that into that. I mean, we were talking about Candace and the doxing. This is kind of a little rough tie into the segment, but I wanted to get your thoughts on this, because kind of like, what sort of things can we do about this sort of stuff? I'm interested. I don't know if you saw this. It was kind of a minor little blip on the timeline, but I was interested in it. It's like an interesting theory concept. I know. I think you've been doxxed before, Pete. Have I been doxxed? I think maybe. And it depends on what you consider dox. I mean, damn near anyone who's been around for a while has had something along those lines. But apparently the Seth Harp guy, who's the one that wrote that Fort Bragg story, apparently he doxed some Delta Force commander and it supposedly released classified information about the Venezuela mission. And now Representative Ana Paulina Luna, this other slop merchant who's done literally nothing other than to be a pretty distracting face, she's apparently calling Seth Harp to testify for Congress about this, about doxing a service member. Now, I mean, maybe you might disagree with me a little bit here. But I don't know. I mean, unless you showed me this guy had never done crazy goon shit, I don't know. Someone who's literally going over there, leading an operation, murdering a bunch of people. I don't know. Is it really that? I mean, I'm not necessarily advocating it, but am I also wanting this person to get dragged before Congress? Am I wanting, because at the end of the day, there's no such thing as classified information if you're a private journalist. Like, unless you're working like J.D. Vance did, ironically, as a fucking military journalist, that's not a thing. Maybe you might say it's not nice to dox a Delta Force commander, but I don't know. At the end of the day, like, I was someone in the military. I literally actually failed out of like a spec ops type thing, so that could have been someone like me. But at the end of the day, like, I don't know. I mean, they're out there murdering people. I mean, am I really that against a social cost for doing these sort of things? I don't know, but I definitely am. Definitely have qualms with them dragging a journalist before Congress for doing something a journalist is allowed to do. I don't know. What are your thoughts on all this, Pete? Yeah, they're talking about dragging this journalist before Congress.
I mean, I would say murder. It's such a tough. If it's a fellow combatant, I don't know that you can consider it murder. I have a tendency to believe that if you're killing 80 people, someone in there is going to be innocent, and Maduro has stood up to the global American empire. And it's when you do that, you have a target on your back, and people are going to get hurt. We saw that in the, I think there's a really good documentary. It's still on YouTube, I believe, called The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. And it's about the CIA attempted coup of Chavez in the early 2000s. I can't remember the exact year. If I don't have the exact year right, somebody in the comments is going to be like, you don't know what you're talking about. But I don't remember the exact year they tried to coup him. But in a perfect world, if we didn't live in an oligarchy, if we didn't live in a government where they're constantly doing dirty shit, you'd be wide open, and this person who was a hero would be considered a hero, and they would be paraded, and you would know who they are. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means about. I mean, I know what it means about the world we live in. It means that as far as I'm concerned, foreign policy is never for the good of the American people. J.D. Vance can say whatever he wants. I mean, sounds good if you believe in like the Monroe Doctrine. I have a tendency to have a problem with the Monroe Doctrine when you have an occupied government by a foreign power and a foreign ideology. I just, you start throwing journalists into, we've seen what happened to journalists in the past, Gary Webb, people like that. As much as Scott can say, oh no, he actually did kill himself. Okay, Scott, I love you, but come on. We've seen what have happened to them. And I don't know why this guy isn't a hero. I don't know why he isn't a household name. I don't know why, Americans wouldn't, want their kids to know his name and to celebrate him, unless, some fucked up shit happened, or this is so secretive that you don't want people to know anything about what happened there.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder, why don't you want this name released, want this information out there? Now, I will add, I think there were claims that he got the wrong person, so, like, okay, but, I think...
Well, that's another problem, too, it's like, people get, you see this all the time, like, even after this the dyke got shot yesterday. They were spreading stories about how her wife, quote unquote, was like arrested for child abuse and putting out cigarettes on the. I mean, try to do 48 hours at least get the name right, at least get, I'm sure these are not good people and definitely not people I would want living even in my state. But, try to get something right. Propaganda like that, like out and out lies, only works for the left. It doesn't work for the right, because people who have more right-wing tendencies have a tendency to have a conscience.
All right, let's get started into the last segment. Talk a little Thiel Takeover. Let's watch this clip.
So creepy, man.
I know this creepy. This creepy
I know
dude.
people who
Here's
know.
him on the.
I know people who know him. I know people who've had meetings with him. I know people, and they're like, I like Peter. The people who surround him are really cool. Apparently, like his handlers are really are really cool. But I mean, what handler can handle Peter Thiel, really?
Yeah, he's a creepy guy. I don't know. I have a hard time wrapping my head around him. I don't really understand why anybody likes him. He is this enigma to me that, like, anywhere you fall on the in the political paradigm, you would think that you would have a legitimate reason to fucking despise this guy. Personally, I mean, if you're I don't know. I mean, I could kind of break down every different angle, but this guy is literally like a corporate overlord wearing religion skin suit to push transhumanism. So, and he's gay. So I don't know. It's why
and
anybody likes him's a little beyond me.
Apparently, one of his lovers fell out of a window in Miami.
Yeah, in a former Bronfman house. One of the people who was in the Nixium cult. So just to complicate that even more. So that's after they'd had a big spat at some party where his husband was like, "Get him out of here." So fun stuff. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Let's see him talking to a couple queens gabbing here.
And then I think there are a lot of ways that that something like Palantir ends up being also a constraint on government action, where if a lot of the abuses, a lot of the most extreme sort of overreach happened in contexts where people thought there would be no accountability ever inside the government. So, and that this was, probably like something like the Guantanamo stuff in Bush 43. Nobody knew what was going on. If nobody knows, it can go really crazy. And then, of course, at some point, people know, and the inmates take over the asylum, right? And it sort of went probably too much the other way. But there probably were a lot of deep state excesses that happened where if Palantir had been used, there would have been more of a record of what people were doing. The NSA has not worked with Palantir, and all these different suspicions. There's one version is just they had a not in here bias, but I think another version was there were probably a lot of things at NSA where it was too entangled. The FISA courts were way out of control, and if you had this outside software system where you actually tracked how often this stuff was used, there'd be much more risk this would have gotten exposed, and would have there would have been a track record, much tighter track record of these things, and it actually would have limited it. So we somehow got blocked at NSA very early on, and I tend to think that the explanation Alex and I are sympathetic to was that the people at NSA believed that whatever power the software gave them, it also limited their power because there would be more accountability.
Right. It would basically sort of end up with a USAID situation on them in some sense.
At some point, you have a line item track where you know exactly where the money is going. Like the USAID thing worked because I believe you had like a level 5. I think the technical government thing on USAID is you have a level 5 description, which is the line item description. And then there was a level 4 description, which is how you sort of group these things together. And I believe the level 4 what was reported to the Trump political people. And then the level 5 and level 4 were wildly divergent. This was, by the way, I believe something like this is what Oliver North was charged with in the 1980s, was sort of that he engaged in fraud because he had mischaracterized various payments. And so I think so many of these, I suspect if we want to be aggressive, so many of the people working at USAID could be charged with fraud, like Oliver North was charged with.
It's funny he brings up Oliver North, especially how spooky Thiel's background is here. But he's kind of talking about Palantir. It sounds like kind of the idea of essentially having a built-in ledger and how the future of government will be accountable. There'll be tracking everything that happens. I mean, I'm going to mention again the Oliver North thing. That's funny, that you're bringing that up. Like, oh, well, then we would essentially, the implication being we'd have a ledger of Oliver North stuff. So maybe it was prevented the fraud, despite the fact that was the entire fucking point, because that was an intelligence operation. But obviously, I think, there's something interesting to be said with somebody like Thiel, who has some bizarre connections, some other blackmailers a la Epstein. And so it kind of, I don't know, someone having, complete and utter, ability to see what the government does. And then I'm a tech retard, so it's like I assume if you have that, like you also have the ability to dick around, remove things. Like someone has to have that ultimate nerd tech power somewhere. So I know. What are your thoughts on all this? You find this a little creepy? I don't know. Maybe there's a good argument to be said of tracking every government action. Although it's kind of a who watches the Watchmen type of situation a little bit here. I don't know. And any thoughts on all of this? You kind of take it wherever you want, but I just thought it'd be an interesting clip to kind of lead off this conversation.
Well, I thought the first thing I wanted to do was congratulate Oliver North and Fawn Hall for getting married like 40 years after the friggin' Senate hearings. You heard about that last year?
No, I didn't know.
They're like Oliver North and Fawn Hall, who was part of the whole Iran-Contra thing. She was a secretary of some sort and everything. They got married last year. They were like the two focal points of the whole Senate hearings. Just a weird little thing there. Huh. But, one thing that I do know is that, you're never, no one's ever going to have complete control. In the Pentagon, there are warring factions in the Pentagon. This is well known. There are anti-Israel factions in the Pentagon. There are pro-Israel factions in the Pentagon. There are State Department as well. You remember, like State Department and Pentagon hardly even communicate. You remember the Pentagon-backed rebels and the State Department-backed rebels fighting each other in
Syria, right?
So I don't even know if there's any way that you're ever going to get like a, what he's talking about here is like, well, even if Palantir was like the only thing, and they could bet you have people in the government with the people who think that like the government is this monolith and everybody in there agrees. It's like, oh, as long as we keep power going in this one way. No, they want the government to keep going. They want that power structure to keep going. But there are all sorts of fights about how and which direction they want it to go in. And this whole tech sector, the tech billionaire crew, I see them as just another interest group. You have the Israeli interest group, the Zionist interest group, which as much as the tech sector has ties to Israel, that doesn't mean that they have ties to Zion. Like they're hardcore Zionists, that they're going to support hardcore Zionism. So they're at odds very often. Then you have the financial guys, you have Wall Street, you have even the Federal Reserve for the past 3 or 4 years, Jerome Powell has been way off the line of the way the Federal Reserve had operated since like Volcker. He went to war to try to destroy the EU. He destroyed LIBOR, brought it home to SOFR. So now Americans are, American basically computing systems are determining what interest rates are. I mean, I tend to worry less about Palantir because I've talked to people who know the technology, and the technology is not being updated. Alex Karp, when you see him go, oh, we took down all these right-wing groups, it's total fucking bullshit. The guy's lying to just keep the stock pumped. If you've been following it all, Michael Burry on Twitter, he's the guy who in The Big Short was played by what's his name, Batman.
I don't think I never watched. I know it's about, but I never watched that one.
Yeah,
so there's
Dark
Affleck.
Knight.
There's
Dark Knight.
Bale.
Bale. Yeah, Christian Bale played him. He's completely bet against Palantir and a whole bunch of AI stocks, and this guy never loses. I mean, he bet against the whole thing. So I think Palantir is what they want you to be concentrating on while other shit is happening, and when I say that, people are like, oh, you're taking Thiel money, you're taking this and everything. Stop. Look, you can keep listening to Whitney Webb, but also don't only listen to Whitney Webb. Go follow Michael Burry. Go follow people who are betting against these because they've taken the time to do the research to find out that these companies are just being kept. These companies are inflated. Their stocks are being propped up by stories. I mean,
vibes. Yeah.
This Orthodox priest that I interviewed, Father Lemelson, who owned a hedge fund at one point, he's like, look, this is the age of fraud. He goes, everything in the financial system is a fraud at this point. He goes, every stock that you see climbing is being propped up by something fraudulent, is being propped up by a story here that just that turns out not to work out in the end. And yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about, oh, Palantir is going to take over. Palantir is now going into South America. Tech sucks. It's obsolete now. I mean, they haven't updated it since the 2000s.
Yeah, it was wasn't it just some weird little thing they took from some other program? And they go, oh, wow, this works well for this. And I think it's the same shit now or something like that. It's some very simple tool.
And it never worked in the first place. It was, I mean, how many friggin' innocent people got killed or sent to Guantanamo because of it? It doesn't work. And they haven't, and like I said, it's 2000s technology. And you're being sold this while something else is happening. Do I know what's happening somewhere else that, whatever else is being built, why they want you to concentrate on this while they're doing something else? I don't. But it's obvious. They do this all the time. I mean, think about how many stories we've covered in the last 5 or 6 years that if you brought it up to us, we probably wouldn't remember covering it.
Yeah.
Because they were some kind of cover story for something else. But I mean, people who are just believe that they're ruled, that they're being ruled on high and that their every move is being watched. And I mean, you can't argue with them. So, you just have to do your own research. And, that's why a lot of Spurgs don't engage with my work, because my work is Spurg free. I'm not giving you anything to Spurg out over.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the AI stuff's very overvalued and it's going to crash. And now you mentioned it, now thinking about it, I'm like, Palantir sounds like actually one of the four of that. At least some of the other stuff's a little bit more.
I have no investments in AI. I have no investments in Palantir. I have no investments in any of that.
Yeah,
I mean, gold, silver, land. I mean, that's where things could be. Look into quantum computing and see what you think of quantum computing. Maybe in the short term, but as far as tech goes, I mean, look at what tech stocks have been doing lately. I mean, yeah, it's just the reason why is most of that shit is so overblown to get you to dump money into it, to get you to buy while they're selling.
All right, let's zone in a little bit on the Thiel network and kind of the what's going on in the backdrop. I thought this was interesting to kind of get a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. Chris Buskirk, I guess, was recently highlighted in a Washington Post article as a major part of the Rockbridge network. This is a donor network founded in 2019, which included J.D. Vance, Buskirk, Tucker Carlson, Peter Thiel, and Rebecca Mercer. This network's credited with playing a major role in pushing Vance to the VP. Busker is a close confidant of Peter Thiel and previously worked with the Claremont Institute, a Straussian conservative think tank. He also runs the Thiel-funded blog American Greatness. American Greatness publishes authors who, among other things, often advocate for close U.S.-Israel relations. So you kind of see the connections going on in the backdrop, how this does always seem to come back to Zionist nonsense. Leo Strauss makes an appearance here. So we have all these different think tanks going about. This is kind of what's going on in the backdrop.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong about Swing Tank.
Old Founders Barbecue, getting them cheeks clapped and stuff. Probably these are the sort of things going on behind the scenes. And to kind of tie this all together, here's the final little tab I'll bring up for today. Here's a little clip of another billionaire. I wouldn't be surprised if he has some Thiel connections, but let's listen to see what he has to say.
Network, Shlomo Kramer, also one of the founders of Checkpoint, another big cyber company. Shlomo, it's great to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
How is AI, cyber warfare, shaping geopolitics right now?
So AI is going to revolutionize cyber warfare, is revolutionizing cyber warfare from critical infrastructure to the fabric of society and politics, and undermining it, giving unfair advantage to authoritarian governments against democratic countries. First Amendment type of...
That's already happening?
That's already happening. You're seeing the polarization in countries that allow for the First Amendment and protect it, which is great. And I know it's difficult to hear, but it's time to limit the First Amendment in order to protect it. And quickly before it's too late.
What do you mean?
I mean that we need to control the platforms, all the social platforms. We need to stack rank the authenticity of every person that expresses themselves online and take control over what they are saying based on that ranking.
The government
should
control the social media.
Should do that. And we need to educate people against ICE, and government need to develop cyber defense programs that are as sophisticated as the cyber attack. Today it's a 1 to 100 ratio. And really, government are not doing this today at any rate, and enterprises are left fending for themselves.
The technology is moving much faster than the political system typically can to respond to it.
So you need to use technology in order to stabilize the political system, and you need to put adjustments that are perhaps not...
I mean, we're at a point, though,
necessary.
right, I can go on Instagram or TikTok, and frankly, it already is becoming unclear what is fake and what is real.
Exactly.
And once you eliminate that ability to discern truth from fiction, then what are you left with?
You are left with polarization of society and inner fighting, and you have to control that. And you see that already happening across the world.
You know, so if you want to... If the Jews want people to not talk about the Jews, maybe not send a guy named Shlomo on TV to talk about that.
Yeah. I think we got the main gist of that clip. Well, that's
Sure.
probably enough. But let's be real. It sounds like they're trying to turn AI, it kind of ties into how you were saying it's like overvalued. It's kind of nonsense. It sounds like they're trying to make it into this like, oh, we can muddy the waters of what's real and not, and then we can kind of have this magical thing like, oh, whoa, wait a second. Let me consult AI. Shake it up. Oh, what's Magic 8 Ball says? Oh, you're an anti-Semite. Like, that's what it feels like.
I mean, it's hard not to know what they're doing. I mean, the whole, you've seen it ever since October 7th. October 7th was really a turning point in history. I mean, you can look at what people were talking about, how many people were talking about Jewish power on the internet before then and how many afterwards. And they're scared. They're scared that people have noticed the fact that, Biden's cabinet was 80% Jewish. That if you have a government that if people from historic Eastern Europe who hate Russia are in charge, you get war with Russia. If you have a Secretary of State who's from Latin America, you get war with Latin America. People don't want you to notice this. So, they talk about this. I mean, can AI at this point track this? yeah, it does a really poor job of it, actually. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's on my YouTube channel that should be flagged. And like one thing has gotten flagged in like the last 3 years. And, you know, it was by something a guest said that was so egregious that I totally missed. I was, you know, doing something, like related in StreamYard, and they said something, and it's like, oh, and then it's like, oh, you cut that. I mean, but look how that guy starts it out. Invest in my stock. That's it. Invest in my company. And then they flash the ticker symbol. I don't know if they flashed the ticker symbol. Let's but they did flash the name of the company. Invest in my company, and we'll stop anti-Semitism. We'll stop free speech. How many people, I mean, really, how many Americans want to invest in a company where it's like, yeah, we're going to be able to control free speech? It's just, they're throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks, you know? And people want to say, oh, well, anti-Semitism has grown. So look, the talk online in the last 2.5 years. Okay, so what happened 2.5 years ago? What was the response to it? And have you noticed Mark Levin, Rabbi Shmuley, Ben Shapiro? Do you really think that having these guys running around, opening their mouths, is going to be good for you? Do you think calling for curbs to free speech is going to be good to you? I mean, sorry. I mean, it's so obvious that they have no idea what the the younger generation doesn't give a shit about Israel and probably can't find it on the map. Mm-mm. This is boomers. I mean, it's just, I don't even pay. The reason I don't worry about this kind of stuff and don't really, I saw that video, and it's one immediately you're like, oh, go fuck you, fuck yourself, Shlomo. But and what's funny is I'll use Shlomo as just randomly sometimes, but the guy's name is literally Shlomo this time, which, I mean, it just can't get any better. I'm not gonna. I can't worry about this. I can't allow myself to worry about this. I mean, they're spiraling. They're defeating themselves.
100%.
After October 7th, all they had to do is do what they always do, what they've done in history. We're the victim. This happened in a vacuum. We don't know why this happened. Please, world, support us. Send money for the victims. Do this, do that. Oh my God, no. But then they just decided to show their ass and just dropping bombs on, if they would have went in there and, hunted out every Hamas guy and everything and put him to death. Well, even if I'm not particularly a fan of Israel, I can understand it.
Yeah.
I can justify it. Yeah. But you just start killing civilians, and then you have American politicians signing bombs.
Nikki Haley while she was campaigning.
Yeah. So you're telling me who you serve by doing that, because I don't think the average American would do that. Maybe the average gun tuber, some guy with way too many tattoos and too much facial hair, might do that. But American politicians, they showed their ass. They're done. They're done. And I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it. Loving every minute of it.
Yep, I'm loving seeing the descent of the Zionist overlords, because coming LOL cows. But Pete, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. If you want to let people know where they can find you at, now's your time. I'll play a little outro for the people, so feel free to just go ahead and bounce. But yeah, appreciate you being here. I've kept you long enough. Let me know where they can find you at.
Pete Quinones Show, PeteSubstack.com, on every podcatcher, so you can catch a show there. I do have to bounce. I have another one. So thank you, Jose. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. We'll see you some other time. But all right, guys, for those who want to support what I'm doing, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcatchers, and Twitter as well, at TerrorGangJose. And if you want to support the show the best way you can do that with money right here. Patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. You got a QR code right here too if you like using those thingamabobs. And you can support this show there. At the low level of $2, you get a whole host of perks. You get access to early episodes. I do about 1 to 2 of those per week. I did an episode on Marcionism, an obscure Christian sect last night. I'm doing an episode tonight on what's it, part 4 of the West Memphis 3. So you get usually about 2 of those, maybe more, 1 to 2, sometimes even 3 per week. Try to keep about 4 behind the paywall at any given time. You get an ad-free RSS feed. You get access to Telegram. You get access to the pre-show, the post-show, and video calls on me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I also give a big shout-out to my Patreon, or my sponsors, which is the highest level of my Patreon. As a big thank you for everything they do, for their support. I have my previous co-host Entire Gang, at Learner Toad, also at Abrogate D's, at ZLVRSTK, at _Infinite Zeal, at Tim Tuttle, at Jolly Klebo, big fan of the show Torme, at Wayne Tax, One Inherit Car for Kids, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Vestibule, and Jacob Winograd of the Biblical Anarchy Podcast. With that, guys, we're gonna get out of here. Enjoy this outro. By the way, no show tomorrow. I don't like, unless something changes. I have like 2 kitty deliveries tomorrow, so I will be out tomorrow. I know. We only gave you 2 dumps this week. Squeeze your keister. Hold it for next week. We'll see. I don't know. I might pick up work next week too, so we'll see. The very least, I should be back by Wednesday, maybe Tuesday, maybe Monday. I don't know. But be sure to hit subscribe, hit that bell. That way it tells you when I'm going live. But enjoy this outro. This is one I've had sitting in here for a while. I thought it was a pretty funny one. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you guys on the next one. I will probably drop my West Memphis 3, I believe part 3. I'll probably drop it around the time we normally do the dump. So for those who want to hang out, I'll probably be in the live chat if I'm not too busy doing something at that moment in time. But love you all. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. We'll see you all. Bye-bye.
What does the future look like regarding electrification and battery electric vehicles in your mining operations, then?
Well, we have coal because we've got the biggest coal deposits in the world, but we're not allowed to burn the fucking stuff. So the world's rooted, really. It's all right to be idealistic, but you also have to be realistic. And until the lights go out, the idiots that want to be green on everything and not do mining, not do coal, not do anything, they're going to have to go back and use candles and live in tents, and then they'll no, you might fucking laugh, but it's true. You understand what I'm talking about? I'm not talking bullshit, I'm talking reality. No. If we don't get realistic, we're fucked. It's as simple as that. We're not allowed to use uranium. We've got the biggest uranium deposits in the world in Australia. We're not allowed to mine the fucking stuff. So it's all fucked. So when half these cunts die, well, the world will be a better place, and then those of us that survive will get it going again.
Well, that's an no.
My next door neighbour, I was talking to him. He's a lawyer, so he's not an idiot. Well, he is a fuckwit, but that's another problem. But he said, oh, that's right, you just put plugs along the highways. I said, but if you haven't got a fucking source from a power station, plugs on the highways aren't going to do jack shit, right? Do you understand me? The people don't understand. They think the electricity comes out of fucking space. But if you haven't got a charging system, which is a steam coal burning power station, how the fuck can you charge your batteries? Do you understand that?
Yeah, I understand.
Well, there's a lot of the cunts don't, and that's the problem with the world.
Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the visit.